Okay, before the intro, Jeremy, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
All right.
Holy criminy. That was stressful. Look at how much gray hair you gave me, Jeremy.
I didn't even have that Mountain Man beard the last time I saw you.
You like it?
Wire. Down to the wire.
Thank you. Well, thank you.
Welcome, everybody. We're back with another edition of the Crypto Comics Couch podcast, where we break down the comic book landscape and let you into our world. So it looks like tonight we got a very special guest. Jeremy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Gerimi Burleigh. It's Gerimi. You can find me pretty much at that handle anywhere online, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere else in the internets. I'm a comic book artist, writer, creator, self-publisher. My main series, my most recent project is called Morningstar. It's Lucifer's Fall from Heaven, told as a Western. And you can find it on Crypto Comics.
Yes.
Yay!
You're so awesome. Let me just tell you how awesome you are.
You know, I was going through like your YouTube channel and stuff like that. You have like 440 videos there, and man, you've been doing this for a while, man.
How many of those have fry in them?
I mean, I started my YouTube channel pretty much right before, or kind of shortly after I'd started working on Morningstar. And it's taken me a decade to finish the series. So it's like you can literally watch the creation of almost the entire comic book series over the course of the 10 years on there. It's like it started with time-lapse videos, and then it kind of grew to me doing live streams and just going through phases, and you can just watch each issue. Like I'm doing my pencils, my layouts, my inks, doing the gray tones, the lettering. It's like I would just hop on each week, and whatever I was working on, that's what I would share.
That is awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, one of the first ones I watched was how to letter a comic. So yeah.
Yeah, my system has changed a lot over the years because, you know, I mean, I still love Adobe products, but I'm not a fan of the subscription. So I switched over recently to lettering in a program called Affinity Design. And I will not tell you that Affinity Design is equal to Adobe Illustrator, because Adobe Illustrator has a lot of features that Affinity does not have, but it is very, very affordable. I think it's like $150, and they usually have a sale, kind of like how Clip Studio Paint would do, where they'd have a sale like a couple times a year where you can get it for like as low as $50. And in terms of whatever, you can do everything I do for lettering. And in terms of graphic design, it can do a lot of what I need at the price. It's fantastic. And thank you, Nobody's Illusion. I see him I see that comment in the chat. I appreciate it. I feel the love and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, we're all Morningstar fans. That is one of the most coolest comics. Your skill set is phenomenal. You do everything in that comic, right?
Writing, lettering, gray tones, the whole thing. Paint. I do the digital paint on the covers. Some would say that I have an obsessive level of control over the whole thing, but I've built a system. My process for making it, I can't really farm out. It would be very difficult for me to farm out any stage of the process because for me, like the writing is integral to my page layout because I actually end up doing my word balloons first and then draw my layouts into it. And for me, the lettering and the writing is all tied together. The writing and the balloon placement is tied to my page layouts. My page layouts are tied, obviously, to the penciling and inking. I mean, I suppose I could farm out the inking, but the fact of the matter is that the inking is kind of my favorite part. And I don't even really do pencils per se. I go from rough layout. So my layout phase is very rough pencils to really finishing the art in the inks. So, I mean, from soup to nuts, I'm integrated into the whole process.
So do you ever hire out for like an editorial team or anything like that to go along with the book, or do you just kind of wing everything yourself? That's a lot of work.
I have friends who will usually do proofing, just checking for typos, and they'll occasionally give me some feedback if something looks a little bit wonky. My wife usually reads each issue before it goes out the door. So to that level, I haven't gone to the level of having a developmental editor. It's something I'm thinking about for future projects. I mean, the main thing, the hard thing for me is that I feel like everyone in the comic community should be fairly compensated for the work that they do. Editors, colorists, ladders, everybody at every stage. And knowing that I don't have necessarily the budget to properly compensate that's the other thing that's kept me from farming things out. The revenue from the books hasn't reached the point where, and at a certain point, you got to spend money to make money. I know that. That's true. That's reality. But the revenue from the books right now doesn't necessarily warrant the expenditure of having an editorial team, having a colorist, or having some other things, people working on it. So I have to kind of balance that out. Or it might just simply be that I pick a project that's more like a one-shot, or a small project, and maybe say, all right, well, what's it going to cost my project to have somebody editorial work on this? And is it developmental editing versus more of line edits? That's another thing that I need to decide. How far do I want to go?
So would you ever look at, sorry, Jared, would you ever think of editing
go ahead,
for
Frank.
other creators then, Jeremy?
Did you say hiring or working?
Working with other creators to edit their books. Since you're obviously so talented at every aspect of this, I mean, it just makes me wonder if you would essentially, have a rate that other creators could come to for you. You don't have to say the rate or anything like that, but if other creators could come to you for, additional ideas or maybe some help with getting their books together. I mean, when somebody's able to draw, ink, color, do everything all the way down to the covers, I mean, that's pretty rare in this industry. You're doing what an entire team normally does. So I feel like what you would have to say towards someone else when you're, critiquing their work would be that much more valuable.
Well, that's flattering of you to say. I don't currently have rates for doing editorial feedback per se. What I do have instead, actually, is I have a Patreon. And one of the tiers, in addition to my existing Patreon, where it's just all access to my creative process, where I have a bunch of, I do public blog posts on there so people can follow me on Patreon without being a subscriber and still get a taste of what I do. But most of the, it's sort of like, 2/3 of what I do is behind the subscription wall. And and that's kind of at the basic level. People can read my comic books for free there. They can interact and see kind of the work in progress what they have on the Patreon. But at the higher tiers, there's levels of, it's not necessarily editorial, but like we have a Discord server where we share artwork, give each other critiques and feedbacks. I have a twice monthly 3-hour live stream. So it's like 6 hours a month that I'm doing where it's just for, I see you pulling up the Patreon page right there. Thank you.
Yeah. Here, I'll actually drop a link in the chat for everybody.
Yes, please do. It's just, it's patreon.com/Gerimi. And when the Patreon exclusive live streams we do, we call it Art Book Study Group. And we actually look at some art books. Like right now, we've been going through a book called The Figure by a writer named Walt Reed. But we've got like Andrew Loomis books, George Bridgman, Ken Holtgren. He's a famous animal artist and Disney artist. And we'll just go through them. And we like go through pages, study them, talk together, and do more of a deep dive in terms of improving all of our fundamentals, because I'm a lifelong student of the craft. I don't look at this like, oh, I'm somebody who's making comic books for so many years and I've got all this knowledge. I look at it like I'm learning every day. I learn from people that are like, they're teenagers that are on YouTube that are putting out stuff. And I'll look at them and it's like, if I can learn something from somebody who's like a kid, they know how to do some stuff I don't, I got my ears open. I want to learn from them. It doesn't matter what age you're at, where you're at, what country you're from. I'm trying to learn from everybody, but by the same token, I'm trying to share everything that I learn, and that's part of what we do on the Patreon as well.
It's like the Goonies of comics, man. That's cool.
Yeah, for real. So you put so much into this. When did you decide to take it from hobby to vocation? Like, what was the
I was going to ask that.
Behind that?
Such a good question.
I will tell you that I actually kind of did the opposite. I did the opposite in the sense that, and there is a video on my YouTube channel called "The Time I Quit Comics," because the way the story went is that I went to an art college, and I was in a fine art program, and I knew when I was in high school that I wanted to make comics. But once I was in college, I got a couple years in, and I was thinking about what I was, after the first year or two of college, you start thinking about, well, what's it going to look like in my junior and senior year? What am I going to be doing right after school? And just looking at the comic book industry, I had this thought. Now, mind you, I was going to college in the 90s. So even though this was kind of like post the 90s implosion, I was saying, if you are generous, then you could say that Marvel maybe published 100 titles a month, which definitely was less than that. DC published 100 titles a month. And then if you took Image, Dark Horse, Valiant, I don't know if Dynamite was even around then. If you took like all of the other indie comics together and put them together and said that maybe they published 300 books a month, then you're looking at most, a comic book market of 500 monthly titles. That's at most. Realistically, it was probably maybe a little more than half that, depending on if you looked at preview catalogs in the 90s.
Like 250, 300.
Yeah, something like that. And so I started thinking that even if I go with my maximum number of 500, that means that there are 500 positions for writers, 500 positions for pencilers, 500 positions for inkers, letterers, colorists, and that's not counting, obviously, colorists work their ass off. The letterers and colorists are the ones who are working on multiple books per month. There's letterers who are like lettering like a couple of issues a day. There's colorists that are an issue a day, and they're just like the whole week they're cranking out books. Obviously, with writers, it slows down a little bit more. It's hard, I think, generally for a writer to juggle more than maybe 5 monthly titles. Some people got it down like a science and they're cranking it out. Sometimes they're doing it, and you can kind of see hey, you're right. You're right. Left that Malibu. We're talking about the 90s. I gotta throw Malibu in there because hey, Malibu was a stepping stone to Image, spreading their wings. So they're part of the legend too. But again, just in general, even at max, even if there was a single person for each position on each title, that would be a maximum job market of 2,500 jobs. And so it only goes down from there if there's people working on multiple titles. It goes down from there if you acknowledge the fact that 500 titles is a gross overreach of the size the market really was. The long story, to sum that up, I started thinking, all right, maybe I won't be able. Maybe I might not be able to find a job in comics simply because of how tight that job market is. Because when you look at 2,500 jobs, we're looking at NFL, NBA numbers, and I don't know if people really think about it. Like how
yeah, that's pretty. When you put it in that perspective, that really shrinks down the opportunity, so to speak, with a secured paycheck, if you will.
Yes. So to bring this to your question, basically in my 20s, I kind of I still always loved comics, but I moved into animation, working in graphic design. That led me to kind of my day job, like over through a long circuitous route, and led me to my day job in the toy industry. And after doing that for a while, I started realizing, like, once I had my first regular job in the toy industry, and it was probably the first time as an artist that I had a steady paycheck. I started thinking, I mean, it was my first long-term gig. I've had stayed paid like a 6-month gig, a year-long gig. This was the first time where I was like salaried in a long-term position. And at that point, I started thinking about, okay, I still love comics. So the itch that you guys know,
yeah,
when it sinks its fangs into you, comics get them fangs in deep, and they're not. So I started thinking, all right, well, how do I satisfy these creative desires? So when you talk about transitioning it from a hobby to an actual, vocation, I kind of took the opposite route, which was, if I have a job that's funding my life, paying my bills, and it's keeping me stable, then what it means is I don't need to find an employer. I don't need to find somebody to publish my work. I don't need to battle it out for all of those other people in those 2,500 jobs. And the fact of the matter is that, I mean, for people who occasionally complain about the comics industry, or like they look at this book and say, oh, well, this book kind of sucks, the writing is sorry here, or they don't think the art is good there, or that cover sucks. This is the most talented industry per person of any industry. Like the level of craft, like even though what you would call the worst drawn book that comes out any given month, somebody killed themselves to make that book. And the people who put out these books, just like at all companies, it is so hard to make a comic. I'm like, I don't want to fight with them. So I said, let me play the game for the love of the game. So it's not, and for me, the only reason why I try to make my comics profitable is because I want to be able to have more time in the day to make comics. I'm very grateful for the job I have. I love doing that job. But there's still that desire that if I could in a perfect world, I'd wake up every day, get a little exercise, do a little writing in the morning, and then hit that drawing table and draw all day, take a break for lunch, draw in the afternoon, and that would be my day. Just make some comics in the afternoon, handle some emails, do some publishing work, do a little marketing, and just do that day in, day out. I would be, happy as a jaybird. That's the dream. And that's the reason why, even though I'm making, I would say, I think the positive term that people put on it is pro-am, where somebody has, somewhat semi-professional skills, skill set, and they're working at it and they're treating it like a professional, even though they're not putting in necessarily full-time hours. They're not necessarily, their goal might not be to work at Marvel or DC, Dark Horse, Image. I mean, I would be very, very lucky to have an opportunity to work for any of those publishers. But at the same time, I barely have enough time to do my personal artwork now. So it's like, am I going to leave my day job to work on like a 6-issue miniseries at Image without necessarily knowing if I'm going to be able to do something more than that? I think if I were working at a deli or working at Home Depot, I probably would.
All right. So how do you,
dude? Why would I? It's like I would need a dream gig to make me leave my gig.
Yeah. Because you're living the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you go from, okay, I'm at a place where I can start my own comic to finding that audience, connecting with that audience, and engaging with that audience?
Mhm. Well, I will tell you that the initial, almost all of my audience was built just by attending conventions in person.
That's how we met.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
The very first convention I ever did, it was called LA Comic Con, but it wasn't the Stan Lee one. No, it was LA Wizard World. That's what it was. So it was so long ago that Wizard World used to actually have a show in Los Angeles. I don't think they've had a show out here in many, many years. But
Wow.
the very first, it wasn't, I don't know if it was the first Wizard World LA. It might have been. But, and I'm pretty sure, I can't even remember where it was. I don't think it was at the LA Convention Center. But that show, what I brought to the show was a 28, maybe 30-page ash can of the first chapter of my first graphic novel, I Had the Gods, the book that I did before I even started Morningstar. I came with just that ash can. I had like 50 of them printed up. I sold 45 of them, and I decided to just call it sold out because I wanted to keep that last 5 for like my personal, just private collection as a memory of the fact that I made this thing. But yep, there it is right there. I Had the God. It's a psychological thriller about a man cursed with visions he cannot control.
It is a trippy story.
Book is so
it
cool.
is a trippy story.
Thank you. But to be specific about your initial question, it very much started with me just being at conventions, trying to be myself, which honestly, I think that's the hardest part of any type of marketing or branding is, in marketing speak, they talk about authenticity. And when you're an individual creator who's making a book, that authenticity is just, it's you being yourself. But I think it's really hard to be yourself in front of strangers. It's hard to be yourself in front of people you're meeting for the first time. And you're also nervous, maybe defensive about people judging your work. So learning to relax and just be able to be yourself, that's the real first battle. But then it's just sticking with it, going to show after show. Some shows great, some shows suck. And I don't mean the convention itself, the people running it. I just mean how your sales go, how your experience is, how the audience responds to it. Some shows you're gonna get great response. Some shows you're gonna get a poor response. Sometimes you'll go to the same show and you'll get a poor response one year and you'll kill it the next. And sometimes you'll have a show that's great one year and you go back the next year. I've had some shows where I've had almost like a comedian having their first night of stand-up and killing and then just bombing for like 6 months afterwards. I've had some shows where every year after the first year, it's been diminishing returns to the point where I eventually had to drop the show. That happens as well. But it's just trying to show up, trying to be present, trying to put out work consistently. And that honestly is the hardest thing of all for me. In fact, the big reason why I started the YouTube channel is because I realized, in addition to going to conventions, some people, if you're doing comics full time or if you're selling art full time, there are people who make a full-time living as independent artists doing, obviously pre-COVID times, doing, anywhere from 2 to 4 shows a month. They just get out there, they're selling their works and they're paying their bills, just getting out there in front of people and able to do that. But in my case, where, around my work schedule, I was maybe able to do 4, maybe 6 shows a year. I think at most one year, I tried to do a show a month and I was able to get to 9 shows, and that almost killed me.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Wait, 9 shows in 1 year?
I mean, you see, that's the thing. You guys would say that like, yeah, that's a lot. But I mean, being
Yeah.
Okay, that's again, I appreciate that, but
Do you know how much con crud would be involved in 9 shows?
Your immune system must be unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just like robust and ironclad, right?
I do a lot of vitamin C. I try to get a lot of rest and exercise to keep me healthy. But I'm telling you, where that might sound like a big number to me, I know a lot of creators who would giggle at 9 shows a year. 9 shows a year for them is like a cat nap. Like I know people who literally they'll mark out the calendar 52 weeks in a year, and they might have off, if they're lucky, 1 week a month. Like, and
What?
those are the people who that is their living. They are going to conventions, they're selling prints and comics, and they're doing it every weekend, and that's how they're paying their bills. I've met so many creators at conventions who that is their life. So I mean, when you talk about me doing 9 shows a year, wasn't
to be fair though, Jeremy, you're doing 9 shows while balancing what most anybody would consider a dream career already. And you are making the comics yourself, and you're writing them, and you're drawing them, and you're inking them, and you're doing the covers, and you're handling print, and you're handling shipping, and you're handling all those things in between, and you're running a Patreon. So that is why
it's Burleigh Publishing. Is that how you say it properly?
Well, Burleigh's just my last name.
Because I always say Burleigh.
Spoiler alert.
I respond to Burleigh. I don't get snooty about I mean, you've seen the way my name is spelled. For those who don't know,
it sounds fancy.
Well, I mean, you can see it in the screen underneath my name, but it's Gerimi. It's great for Google in the fact that if someone does get it right, they're definitely going to find me. But
oh yeah,
the misspellings do create a bit of a challenge. But I just decided, I did used to have a different name. My publishing name used to be Optic House, and I still have that as my email. And because some of my old books still have the optichouse.com URL on them, I keep that URL and just forward it to my new site, which is jeremy.net. But even though I switched the branding overall to Jeremy, and originally I'm an old man, even though I don't look it.
Oh yeah, you look so old. You look so young and virilely old.
Well, I bathe in the blood of infants every
Hey, I hear that.
Kid-friendly rating on this one. Thanks,
that explains such great skin, and beautiful.
But a child of the 80s lived through the 90s, so I went through that period where no one was their own name on the internet. Everyone had a cool handle, and
right.
Panda 67
we thought they were cool, but reading them now, it's cringy. Okay.
Yeah, my handle was Royal Drag, and I thought that was the coolest name until everybody said that sounds like somebody who's royally sad. And I'm like,
you were like, really?
Like a contestant on RuPaul's Drag Race. I was going to say, I mean,
it's Royal Dragon. That's what I was thinking, a short version for Royal Dragon, but nobody picked up on that one. Again, 90s.
I always went with poetic nosebleed. Nothing gets worse than that.
But you know what? It's funny. You guys mentioned that. I mean, I know that part of the theme and the topic, you guys wanted to have is about branding. The shift from Optic House to Jeremy.net, that whole thing came from a viewer on my YouTube channel. And a person had left me a comment, and they said that they did not want me to take this the wrong way. But they said that for someone who created, comics that they really liked and artwork they really liked, they were like, it bothered them how horrible my branding was. And when someone calls you out like that, you can take one of two roads. You can take one of two roads. Well, one of three roads. You can get into a flame war with them. You can block them. Or you can listen. And as much as I've run my mouth, I chose to listen.
Well, and that's what makes you grow. That's what makes you better, It's good that you listen, because Jeremy is great branding. You're right. Your name is spelled very uniquely, and it's best to put that forward, because the more you put it out there, the more people are going to get it right, and the more you're going to be found. I mean, I think you followed the recipe right. And it's because someone literally, in my own personal opinion, had the courage to say something to you. Because again, they don't want to offend you, but at the same time, that you want to offer up that help, even though the receiving end don't feel like it's help. Sometimes we feel like, hey man, why are you being so mean?
Well, I mean, they definitely they started the conversation by saying they did not mean to be disrespectful and they didn't mean to come at me. They said they literally like, I want to help you. And so we started a dialogue. I said, all right, well, tell me where are the areas that you see the flaws. Tell me where you see what's wrong with this. Some of the things where you see I can do better. I'm open to suggestions. We kind of went back and forth, talked about a few things. And that was the step that led me to switch over, getting the domain Gerimi.net.
Oh, wow.
Switching all that stuff over. And for a long time, I think I still have the same branding where it's just got like on my website, it's just got like a red bar over the top. And it's just got my, my name, the fact that it's an artwork, and just trying to simplify my name and what I do. That's it. And starting with that, putting that branding on, and that for a while, that was the branding on my YouTube channel until, once I had gotten a certain length into Morningstar, I thought that the Morningstar image has become, as part of changing my branding, the banner that I've had at conventions for the past few years is the cover to the first trade of Morningstar. So, yeah, you see on there the red bar that's on top. That's the branding that's on a lot of my social media. It's on like my newsletter. It's on my website, on my social media. But when one of the things I decided was what I was going to switch to when I was due to get a new banner for my website. And I used to have a banner that had it was broken into 3 images. So it had my graphic novel work on one side. Well, I think it had Morningstar, then it had Eye of the Gods, and then it had just various art prints that I've sold. So just one for my artwork. But in talking to other artists, I've had people go back and forth. And, I went to a workshop that was kind of like an artist business workshop. And one of the things a lot of people talked about was at conventions, when you're kind of designing your booth, you can go the route of having a lot of different images. But if you can have one strong, dominant image that represents your brand, you'll capture more eyes with that dominant image. So when I was designing the cover for Morningstar, I was designing that cover for the first trade. I was designing that cover knowing that I intended to use it as my banner backdrop. So I was at the same time I was kind of comping in where I've got when I'm doing my rough comp, I've got the template header of the book at the top. I've got my arc underneath. I'm doing that, but then I'm also looking at mock-ups of what a banner would look like in a convention setup booth. I'm photoshopping that artwork into the background and testing out different layouts. So I'm kind of going back and forth and tweaking the cover design so it will look really good on both.
Now you're Gerimi marketing.
Yes,
I actually have a picture of one of your booths at a convention. It was from a video from Bionic Buzz.
Oh, go for it.
Let me see if I can. So yeah, I love your banners at the convention, stuff like that. So
I
very
see what
very
you're
well
going
matches
for.
your,
That looks fantastic.
Well, see, that's the old setup where I've got so you can see it's got the branding that's on the web store, and so I had Eye of the God, and then Morningstar, and then the Prince. But the current banner I have now, it's just the cover to Morningstar Volume 2, and I can share the screen if you don't have an image of the volume, or not Volume 2, but Volume 1. I can pull up.
I think we can pull up Volume 1, the cover on the marketplace.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, give Matt 1 second. He's a bad A. He's moving in the background. That's why he's looking off screens, because he's taking care of business.
But let me see. That's
I love that cover.
Well, actually, you know what?
First cover I saw.
Actually, if you go back to my web store real quick, if you click on the books, the comics, that the very first image, if you click on that one, it'll bring up a larger image of the and click on that again, it'll bring it up big. So this image now, this is my convention banner.
Okay.
Oh.
And the only difference is that there's extra room at the top, and I actually have the logo at the top instead of at the bottom. But that's what I went to. So it's just one big, massive image. And I remember that I felt good about the decision of going this direction, in that there was the first year I had that banner, somebody came up to my table and they said that they saw the banner from across the convention hall and they had to come over to see what the hell this was.
It is a huge banner. I have seen it in person. It is very big.
That's awesome.
That is what you want a cover to do. You want a cover.
Right.
You want people to see that and say, what is that? That's it. You just want to, I mean, it's not dramatic or it's not matter to do something to offend people. It's just something to spark curiosity. That's what you want. And I mean, that's doing double duty as a cover, as a banner art, as a postcard, is worth the material.
Hey, I want to read this question from Digi real quick. What? Hey, hold on. Don't get distracted by the magnificent beard. Let's go to the question. For Comic-Cons, does he find it better to have the 3 individual banners rather than the one big banner, assuming it's more cost effective as 3 individual banners since he might have to swap out imagery?
Okay, yeah, I see. JD, I see that's a great question. I do find it, well, actually, no, I find it better to have the one big banner. Kind of for what I was saying before in terms of a giant statement that drew people from across the room and really stood out. I went with the 3 banners for the exact reason that you point out, that I kind of thought, all right, I'm going to continue to publish stuff. I'm going to make new art prints. So whenever I have a bunch of new prints, I can swap out the art print one and put in the new art prints one. I can go ahead and say, all right, if I've got a different graphic novel, I can take whatever is my most popular graphic novel and then take maybe the other one that's not as popular. Like Eye of the God just isn't my best-selling book. I mean, Morningstar's been. But, let's say I'm going to start a new series at some point. When I got the new series, it's like I take Eye of the Gods down. Now it's Morningstar in the new series. That's what I was originally thinking in terms of the modular switching things out. But once I went to the one large banner, the response in terms of people being drawn to the booth, that it pulled people in more. Because in terms of prints, all of those art prints, the art prints are still going to be on the table. So people, once they come to the table, they can still look and see, oh, he does comics and he's got print. He's got some originals for sale. They can see all that. They can see the individual multiple titles. So if I've got more than one, if I've got because now I have 3 trades that I have at shows. So I've got 2 trades of Morningstar and I've got 1 trade of Eye of the Gods. So I've got 3 complete books for people to check out at my table. But the hardest part about, I think, any type of branding, any type of marketing, the hardest part is getting them coming in.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that guy who's standing in the middle of the hall yelling and screaming at people. You want to have something that makes
Wait, what's wrong with that guy? That's me. No, I just kidding.
Yeah, I was about to say, careful, Jeremy. We have that guy.
Wait, what?
I mean, I'll tell you. I mean, here's an interesting thing that I'll tell you. I will give you my big convention secrets. Now, I give out free postcards at conventions. I usually just bring a box of like 500 postcards or whatever, and I'll hand those out. But I don't just hand them out willy-nilly. To people, like some of my friends who have done conventions with me, they may think I'm handing out willy-nilly, but I'm not handing them out willy-nilly. I'm standing at my table, and I don't do sketches at shows anymore because it interferes with me interacting with people. I can't give my full concentration. I'm going to do a really horrible drawing, or I'm not going to interact with people at the shows. I got to pick one or the other. And if somebody really wants to commission me to do a sketch, I'll take the payment and I will do the sketch at home and mail it to them because I want to give them my best work. I found that I was doing work at shows that people were happy with. And I never want to tell someone, oh, I botched that one. I don't want people to feel bad about something that
But you see it. You know.
In my mind, I want every drawing that leaves my hand to be the best thing I could possibly have done. And I decided to stop doing sketches at shows because I wanted for me to know that I gave my all to that person. So I'll never tell somebody I did or didn't like something about it. If they're happy with it, I just say thank you. I'm glad you enjoy it. That's all there is to say. I want them to be happy. But it's really hard to do my best. Okay, I'm getting on a tangent. My point about okay, I told you I was going to give you the sauce. So for me, the sauce is I'm sitting at the convention show. I people watch. I'm watching everyone as they walk by.
I love people watching.
I know how you do. The thing about it is, before I hand somebody a poster, and you have a very limited window of doing this, but I'm watching people as they're coming along, and for me, I try to make eye contact with every person before they get right in front of my table. Because I don't want to try to give them a postcard when they're in front of somebody else's table, because they might be stopping at somebody else. And I don't want to be rude to my convention mates. I don't want to be rude to other people that are trying to make sales, but trying to steal somebody who's stopping at theirs. But I do try to make eye contact as they're coming. And if they're coming and they do actually make eye contact with me, I smile and I say hello. Because there are people who they're trying to get to a panel, or there's a Funko Pop giveaway like 3 booths down, but wherever it is, they're just like, nah, I ain't trying to hear you. No, they're just there's a cosplay masquerade, and they are determined to get top 3. Whatever it is, they're not stopping at my booth. So if someone doesn't want to even make eye contact and say hello, then I'm just like, I may just wave to them as they go by. That's it. But if somebody actually does say hi, then I will say, would you like a free postcard? Not here, take my postcard. Not here, you got to read this. Here, it's the hot new Western, whatever. Just hi. Would you like a postcard? Because if somebody, I always want it to be like, we're getting into business talk, but they always talk about opt-in marketing. The marketing where someone is on a mailing list they didn't sign up for, and they're getting crap they didn't want. That's crappy marketing. Nobody wants to be spammed. And as we've all seen in real life, you can spam people in person.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want to spam people in person. Sometimes I think that I may occasionally come off as spam just because other artists are very introverted and shy, and they won't. You have to drag it out of them to get people to tell them about their book, or to engage or interact with them, or they just have their head down doing their sketches the whole time. And then no shade on people who have their head down doing their sketches. They're trying to get the commissions done. They're trying to make that money too. It's a different path. But just by being forward and actively interacting with people, I try to find that balance where I'm not coming off too aggressive. But for me, if somebody doesn't want to say hello or talk or engage, then they sure as hell don't want a postcard from me.
So Gerimi, would you say it was a good idea or a bad idea for me to park myself next to your booth at Amazing Con in Vegas until you agreed to sign up for the system? Because I'm hearing that maybe I went about this the wrong way, but at the same time, you're on our stream, so I have no regrets.
You know what? The results speak for themselves.
Yeah,
there we go. All right.
Because if anything, there's a difference between being persistent and being spammy. Friendly and respectful, but persistent. And obviously, as we all know, to do anything in comics, you have to be persistent.
Yes.
But
I just wanted to put this up for you just because it's pretty awesome. Crutchy is the man. We love you, Crutchy.
Oh, cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I look forward to sending those out. Thank you so much.
I do want to give a shout out to Rose. She said she was joining the show, and she was going to listen. And I did the wave.
Hi, Rose. You can't see me waving. Hi, Rose.
Yeah, these guys just waved at someone that has vision difficulties. I don't understand this sometimes. I love you.
I am sorry. I apologize for it.
I had to shoot him a message and be like, guys, she can't see you wave.
I felt bad at that moment in time.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about with Morningstar and stuff like that. How much research goes into that, and how has the reaction been from the fans as far as just the little intricacies about even the names of all the archangels and stuff like that? Like how has that reaction been?
Well, the reaction has been overwhelmingly positive. I think that I tried to, in terms of like the names of the angels, I went through and looked at a bunch of angel books. I tried to, start with the archangels since I've got 7 archangels in my stories of like 4 archangels, but I tried to pick other, angels that were very well known and popular. But by the same token, in reading through the story and kind of constructing it, I was trying to make something that would be interesting and engaging, because I'm writing it from kind of a secular mythological standpoint. So it's not a book where I'm trying to adapt scripture per se, but I also want to write something that's going to be offensive to religious people as well. So it's a matter of trying to write this mythology and create this mythology. And when I meet people who come to my table, specifically, people that are Christian, and I tell them, I want you to understand that I'm trying to write something that I'm taking a mythological bent with these archangels and construct my own story. So it's based on ideas in the Bible, but it's not something that's going to be accurate to scripture, but hopefully you will find it to be an entertaining, fantastical Western tale. And I found from people, both religious and secular, who responded very positively to it. First off, when you have a book that is starring Lucifer, that's going to.
Yeah.
The fact of it is, even now you have people protesting the Lucifer show that's on Netflix,
which is awesome.
It's
I love
such a
that
funny
show.
Yeah. Honestly, I still have not watched the series, not out of any dislike for the series, but more just there's so little time to watch stuff. And it's a matter of at some point I'm going to sit down and I'm going to get through the whole thing. And again, I actually, it's also a matter of what piques my interest, because I have actually watched all of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I don't know why Sabrina brought Lucifer. Maybe it's just the fact. Maybe it's because I'm already doing the Lucifer thing, and I didn't want to get too far up into that.
Boy, Jeremy, you're going to be really off-put when you see my favorite cosplay.
You're going to be dressed as Sabrina the Teenage Witch, or you're going to be dressed as Lucifer from Lucifer?
Well, now it's got to be a surprise, or everyone will know.
No, you have to tell us, Spry. I'm picking witch.
I haven't been checking out these tanning beds online for no reason. You know what I'm saying? You got to be ready. Season's coming upon us.
Oh no. Well, but to finish the question though, part of it is that when I tell somebody, like let's say somebody comes from an evangelical background, when I tell them the pitch of the story, they're like, okay, I'm interested to hear that story. Because the pitch of the background is Lucifer wasn't born to be evil. He was born to be perfect. He was born to be the brightest of all the angels. So what happened? Where did things go wrong? You can just put it very simply and just say, chalk it up to pride, because that's, what it comes down to in the Bible. But how does a person go from being the brightest of all the angels to the darkest of them? It's like why is Anakin Skywalker, why is that transformation from Anakin to Darth Vader fascinating? That's that. In fact, when I heard they were making the Star Wars prequels, I was kind of upset, because I'm like, that's the story I'm telling. How does someone go from being the perfect, the golden child, God's, first creation, to the source of all evil in the universe? But when I
think you're okay, because they dropped the ball on Star Wars, so you're okay.
To be fair, that was
hey, those are fighting words.
Have you guys seen the Book of Boba Fett?
I'm
waiting for
one.
Oh, it's good. It's good. I'm digging it the whole way through. I'm like, yes, finally back.
So I do got to ask something about, it doesn't really have much to do with branding, but there's this extreme kind of tonal shift in that first few pages of issue 1, where it starts out, it's these kids telling the story. And honestly, I got to say, panel 2 is just one of my favorite. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Okay. Where it's just that finger, pushing that welcome to heaven sign.
That's
I love
my
it.
favorite part of the book. I know that I shouldn't say that because it's the beginning. Sorry, guys. I'm not saying the rest of it is bad. I'm saying that when you open that book and that's the first thing you see, you immediately recognize that you are not dealing with a normal comic.
Yeah.
Not strong. That's what you're saying. Strong start.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, and then it switches to these kids that are just kind of like telling the story of everything. And they're arguing, oh, that's not what happened. And then there's this full on slaughter. Like,
right.
It was crazy. Like, what kind of
epic?
Yeah.
I guess clearly I'm a fan of the wrong side because I didn't see a slaughter. I saw a victory.
Well, until Morningstar showed up. Booyah.
Well, okay. Well, you make a good point. And I think that's it's not a branding specific question, but I think it does relate to branding in terms of reader expectations. Because you want to deliver on what the reader's expectations are in a story. If you have something that looks like it's going to be like a teenage manga fantasy, and then you open up and it turns out that it's like Tim Vigil's Faust, you're going to definitely be like, this is not what I expected. And by the same time, if you've got like a big, brooding, muscle-bound guy on there, and it turns out this muscle-bound guy is like chasing cartoon characters, and it's like a Sonic the Hedgehog type comic, you're also going to be a little bit disappointed. So I knew that, the tone I was going for was a supernatural, fantastical Western. So it's not even a supernatural Western like Jonah Hex, but this is a Western that's like magical realism. This is like Carlos Castaneda's Western. This is like Don Quixote, but it's still going to be gritty because the cover says gritty. So in opening the story, I'm starting with that childlike, I knew that the part of questioning the origins of the universe and, the origin of where these demons that are the whole, that start out as the primary antagonist of the story, the origin of what these demons are, I knew that was going to be critical. That was going to be the engine driving the story. So right from the start, the idea of these kids talking back and forth about it, and that framing device in the beginning of them just talking and telling different versions of the story, it's almost like doing a Rashomon, that idea of each person having a different idea of what the story is. So it's starting out, and the reason for having it, with the cartoon finger pushing the sign into the ground, it's a little bit Monty Python, because I was first exposed to Monty Python, like, they used to play it on PBS when I was a kid, and I didn't understand.
Really?
Like, yeah, I didn't understand. Like maybe 25% of it, I maybe understood.
Right.
But
right.
And I loved Terry Gilliam's animations in there. So I was thinking, this is the kind of thing that kids would be. This is how it would look with kids telling this fantastical, ridiculous story. The way that kids are sitting there trying to top one another and say, that's not what happened. This version, that's what this happened. And then breaking that reality to go to the reality of these kids, and you see that they're actually sitting there telling stories. But then all of a sudden, so very quickly, I go from the magical fantasy world that I'm setting up to these kids and the reality of kids, almost like a Stand By Me type thing, to the sense of danger. The very next page, when you hear like it's too quiet and you hear twigs snapping, to, oh my God, this kid has been scooped up by a monster, and all of a sudden, he's got blood splattered all over his face.
Jeremy, I'm just saying this is exactly how Lord of the Flies should have ended. I just want to say thank you for letting your book begin this way.
I appreciate that.
So there's a question from Rose. Mm-hmm. How do you decide what picture to put on the front cover to get people hooked?
Well, that's a good question, because sometimes you decide those covers and you decide wrong. For instance, the trade that we talked about, the cover that's on the Morningstar, the cover that's the banner,
Mm-hmm.
that cover is not the first cover that I did for the trade of Morningstar. The original trade for Morningstar, the very first version of the first 4 issues collected, there isn't an image of it anywhere on my website. But I'll describe.
It's not the one we have in the marketplace?
I don't think so. It's Lucifer riding on a horse, and he's got a lasso that he's spinning behind him.
Oh,
and the
okay.
lasso is forming a flaming pentagram inside of it.
That's the copy
wow.
I have. What's up, sucker?
What? Are you serious?
Limited edition cover because it's out of print. Now,
Whoa! You just made Fry's day.
Oh, Fry knew it. Fry knew it when I got it.
Oh, of course he did.
He's a very good salesman.
Now, to Rose's question, the reason why I originally did that cover is simply it was an image that in my mind I thought was very cool. Western guy swinging a flaming pentagram. And as an image, it did look cool on the cover, but to have a full shot of a person on a horse, we can see their full body and leave room on top of it for the lasso to have it probably spinning behind them. The actual figure and the horse are actually going to be not that big on the cover, particularly because my books, my trades, my collected editions are digest size. My normal issues are normal comic book size, but I letter a little bit large because I shrink down my print editions to like it's 5.5 by 8.5. So it's digest size. So the character image is not that large. Now, what led to the change was that I was talking to a lot of people at comic conventions, and I try to write books that will be entertaining no matter who reads them. I want them to be appealing to men, women, LGBTQ people. I want them to be accessible to everybody, and I hope that they will get something entertaining out of it for everybody. That said, the primary characters in there, Lucifer is black. His best friend in the story is the Archangel Michael. He's black. They have sort of a love triangle between them and another character, an Archangel that's Gabrielle. I wanted to have more female characters in it, so instead of the Archangel Gabriel, I made Gabriel into Gabrielle. Gabrielle is black.
That's a nice twist.
So while there's people of different ethnicities in the whole book, the main 3 characters are black. And I bring this up because the way I went to the change is that a lot of other black comic convention readers came to me and they told me they really appreciated seeing a black character front and center in the story. And I realized looking at the cover that you couldn't really tell Lucifer's ethnicity from the cover. It could just be a guy in all black. Like he almost could be like Randall Flagg from The Stand, Stephen King's The Stand. He just, he could just be a man in black with glowing eyes. You can't tell that he's African American. There was no American in the story. He had African features. So I specifically decided, how do I make a cover that looks more like a portrait, a cool fantasy portrait, but a portrait. Now, this isn't saying that you need to make your covers a portrait, and it's not saying that your covers need to necessarily express the character's identity in terms of ethnicity, gender, orientation, what have you. Maybe those things are important, maybe they aren't. The real thing is finding out what is important to your audience, what your audience resonates with. With me, they resonated with the fact that with the main character's ethnicity, so I chose to bring that more forward in my comic.
Here's one option, and then here's the difference. I just wanted to give that comparison because you're totally right. I noticed that even though it's not the first one you were talking about with the lasso, the comparison is really true. With that first one, you can't really tell the ethnicity, and then when you go to the other cover, like it's a full on portrait, and you can really see it. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, and even the lighting. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you really had a character backlit like that with a flaming pentagram behind them, their face would really be in shadow. You wouldn't be able to see as much of the facial features as I have in this. I took artistic license and said, I'm going to make it brighter so that you can see his face. So when it comes to deciding what to put on the cover of your book to get people hooked, to a certain degree, you kind of have to start kind of reaching out to people. For instance, one of the things that I plan to do in future, in the next comic book series I want to do is kind of more of a mythological fantasy story. So this time it's like Greek myths as opposed to, biblical myths, biblical mythology. But the point being is that one of the things I wanted to start doing was to sketch out all of my potential covers beforehand and start posting them on social media and see what images people respond to. Maybe start selling prints of the characters before I even put the books on for sale. Because this is another interesting thing. I've made prints of every cover of Morningstar. Every single issue, I've made prints out of them. The only prints that ever really sold are the prints of the graphic novel cover, the prints of Gabrielle, and the prints of Gabrielle, that the cover with her is an homage to Frank Frazetta's Death Dealer. So you can see how that would be. It's issue 5. That one, you could see how anybody who's doing homage to Frazetta, you're starting with a good composition and good color tone. And the cover to, I think it was issue 7, there's an archangel named Uriel. He's the angel of death, and he's like this really tall, blonde, super muscled guy, and it's a cover of him standing naked up to his waist in a in like a pool of blood with demons floating in it. Those are the ones that sold.
You're not demented.
Yeah.
That would fit in on any Sunday school class, guys. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
So-
that's that skin thing you were telling me about. I get it. He's just trying to get better skin. I get it.
Well, this guy's bathing in demon blood, so if anything, his skin is going to probably start shriveling, getting pretty gnarly. But but the further point is that the idea.
Where's number 5?
Oh, that's the bottom row middle.
That's Gabriella.
Yes, that's Gabrielle.
Gabrielle. Oh, I did the
I
Gabriella.
love the composition on issue 7, though.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I tried to do. Actually, the cover for number 3, which is the top row on the right, that one also sold a lot as a print. This is Ariel. And she's got a lot of she has some anger issues. She goes through. Believe it or not, Lucifer is not my favorite character in the story. Ariel is. Well, I'm kind of tied between Ariel and Gabrielle, but Ariel I think has the most interesting story arc in the whole series. But
really,
the point I was making about selling prints is that you can take an idea. I think that it is very hard to just pull brilliant ideas out of your head. I think that you need to put ideas out in the world, see how people interact with them, and then course correct. So instead of necessarily trying to say, how am I going to make the most brilliant cover on earth? Take all of your ideas for covers, do a bunch of sketches of them, post them online, see which ones get a ton of likes, see which ones get feedback from people. Take that sketch, work it up into like a print, put the print on sale. See if you get any sales on it. If you don't get any sales, maybe that cover. This is an interesting thing that I really started thinking about. It's changed my art prints and it's changed my cover design. Because I realized that if I could design an image that was striking as a print, that people would say, I like this image, I want this hanging on my wall. If I can design something that is successful as a print, then put that on the cover of a book, that will help sell the book because people will pick up the book because it has that on it. For instance, my art book, the cover to my art book it's called Wound. And it's a woman standing, you can't see her face. You're looking at her from the back, but she has it's called wound because it's kind of like a play on words because she has a large wound in her back. Like her back is split so you can see all of the spine, the back muscles, not like peeled all the way back, but you just see an opening split.
Just comfortably
Yeah, here
back.
it is.
Just peeled comfortably back, guys.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the-
it's
like
not,
the Hallmark
it's not,
version.
it's not aggressive. It's just kind of just a little bit, you know.
yes,
Yeah.
and there it is.
Family friendly.
Exactly. And then obviously in the middle of the back is a wind-up key. So that image is the cover to my art book. And you would not believe how many people pick up the art book and say, well, what's this comic about? They're like, they want to read this comic. Whatever it is. And if I were smart, I would write a story about her. I haven't.
I gotta highlight this question, Jeremy, real quick. We had it up on screen before.
Wait, hold on.
This
we have
goes
to
right
set
into what he's talking about.
Right, but this is a rhetorical question, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, no, it's not a rhetorical question at all. Well, I mean, okay, no, actually, it is rhetorical. You'll
show the badge, Matt.
Yeah.
So
the question is, night nurse. Is the grotesque nurse protecting the child? Is she protecting the child, or is she evil and abducting the baby? He says, you decide. So yes, it is. There it is. And it.
I want to
do
know
a close-up on that.
How many people have gotten a tattoo of this? Because I want one. Real bad.
As soon as that question was posed, I was like, that's a great question because look at her face, look at her eyes. Is she looking at something in defense of like, oh, I'm going to protect this baby? Or is she looking at you like saying, I'm going to eat this baby? You know what I mean?
I think she's protecting you from the baby. That's the way I look at it.
Oh, see, I didn't even think about that.
Okay,
well, that is not a happy baby.
I'm going to tell you that Nobody's Illusion is right. Because Nobody's Illusion ended the question with, you decide. And I very, very firmly believe that art, let me this way, my personal art is not meant to tell people what to think. It's meant to provoke thought, not to be provocative for provocative sake. It's meant to engage people and make them ask questions. So I have a lot of pieces that are visually stunning. Not stunning sounds like I'm high on my own supply. Let me say visually.
You are, but we're all high on it too, brother. Woohoo!
I don't want to come off like that. Because
there is no way that you two.
You don't have to. I already came off like that for you. It's okay. We love you.
But what I'm trying to express is that a lot of people will see work and they're visually engaging. They're engaging. They look at it. They make you say, "What's going on here?" So the piece asks questions without asking them, because I feel like when I finish making an image, that's only half of the conversation. The other half is whatever the other person brings to it. I almost want it to be kind of like a Rorschach blot. It's up to everyone's going to bring something different to them. Now, in some pieces, the tone is, you can kind of tell what I'm going for, but whether that's meant to be looked at with a critical eye or a positive eye is still up to the viewer. And they say that a good piece of art leaves room for the viewer in it. So I don't want to just tell people this is my statement. I want to leave room for anyone who to project their own feelings, their own consciousness, their own experience onto it. I want them to be able to interact with the piece on that level. That's what. So
what you're saying is that subliminally, I am terrified of babies.
I think so.
I was thinking I'm terrified of nurses with octopus arms.
Well, I mean, you could. This is not me again, not telling you what to think, but you could almost look at her and the way her eyes are wide open like that, and she might be like, "Please get me out of here," because the baby.
I have that thought, Jeremy. That is awesome. That is awesome that you said that. I had that thought. I was like, she could be like, "Oh my gosh, this baby is screaming in my ear," like.
When you have a face like mine, every woman looks at you like this. So I just assumed that was normal.
I thought you looked like Bruce.
But I mean, I think, but this ties into to Rose's question. The idea of doing pieces and putting them out there and seeing what the response is, and then using that response to either course correct or say, all right, if people like this, let me try and put more of that into pieces going into the future. Like, I definitely feel like my covers for Morningstar got better and better as I went along. That said, if I had to do the whole series over again, I would probably do the covers completely differently now. And I mean, at some point, I do plan to do a Kickstarter campaign for kind of like a director's cut version of the entire series. And the main reason why I've held off on running any crowdfunding campaigns is simply because, you know, with the schedule that I have, I couldn't predict when I was going to be done. And I don't want to be, I mean, we all have heard of people who have Kickstarter campaigns that are like a year late, 2 years late, 5 years late. And I didn't want to be that guy. And I also didn't want to be somebody who ran a Kickstarter campaign and then didn't run another campaign for 5 years. So I thought, let me wait till the entire series is done and then go from there. But I am at some point going to go back and redo all of the covers. And I'm probably going to do exactly what I advised you to do, where I'm going to try and do a series of prints and see what people respond to and use those for the covers. Because the main thing I'm thinking now is to have Lucifer plus one of the, because I tried to do it where each cover is a different archangel, and then the final cover is Lucifer again. But this time I might do it where Lucifer's on every cover and then interacting with a different archangel.
Well, Digi just offered you some advice, you know, in relation to covers if you saw it.
Oh boy.
It's not the best advice.
Hey, Jeremy said that you take it all in, you figure out what works, and then you put it out. You know what I'm saying? I was just making sure that he didn't miss some of the intellectual prowess of this chat.
Well, I mean, hey, that cover with Uriel in the pool of blood. Notice, you know, he's almost, you know, he's butt naked.
Oh, good point.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I got lady readers too. I got to service everybody. I've got, you know, LGBTQ readers. I got to service everybody. You know.
Oh, Jared and Matt. There's no way y'all didn't notice how low that was. Come on now, you just don't want to.
I totally
you just
didn't.
don't want to admit
I thought it was up to his belly button.
That was perfect.
I thought it was up to his belly button. But weren't you saying that was one of your higher selling prints?
Yes.
Was it?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So right in line with Digi is. I mean, he knows. He knows. He's got intellect. He knows.
You know,
That's
and I mean,
awesome.
but also you've got to know your audience, because not every, for instance, the next series I plan to do, it's not. And see, I'm gonna have to see how it goes in the writing, because I'm not aiming for it to be all ages, like a Sonic the Hedgehog comic. I'm planning for it to be all ages, more kind of like, if you've ever read Bone, Jeff Smith's Bone, you know, that book is a book that it starts out really cute, but by the end, it's some dark, heavy stuff.
Yeah.
I would say that for me, what I plan to do totally is probably much more like the latter half of Bone, but I don't plan to have nudity in it. There's going to be violence in it, but it's definitely not going to be the type of thing of Morningstar. So it's probably, you know, whereas Morningstar is PG-13.
I was thinking NC-17. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow. PG-13 and R. Like I always tell them, like when people at conventions would ask me, I tell them the tone, you won't find anything in it you wouldn't find in a Stephen King novel, but you'll find in a Stephen King novel. So it's, but I tell that to parents just because, like, sometimes they'll be there with like a very young child, and I'll be like, just so you know, in terms of the appropriateness of the content, I don't want it to be something that's inappropriate. I would say that the tone of the thing that the next thing I'm going to do is probably more like maybe Robert Kirkman's Invincible with less blood.
Well, I mean, it's called Morningstar. It's kind of hard to, you know, bring your kid there and be like, oh, I don't know what this comic's about. It's Morningstar.
I mean, you read the
but there's you can see stars in the morning. You can see stars in the morning. I mean, I'm thinking
Exhibit
sunrise.
A. So why? Why Jeremy has to talk to parents.
I mean, I've definitely been at conventions that parents say we let our kids watch Game of Thrones, and they've got like a kid who's definitely in like 4th or 5th grade, and I'm not here to judge because my parents let me watch stuff like that when I was a little kid. I mean, maybe that's the reason why I make the messed up stuff that I do, but I'm not here to tell people how to parent their kids. I want the parents to be aware of the content. Period. I want you to be aware of what's in the book. It's up to you to decide what you feel is or isn't appropriate for your child. You know.
Well, now, with the subject matter, do you? Oh, go ahead, Jared.
I already did, Fry.
Okay. So, with the subject matter, have you had anyone that wasn't aware of what was in the book, then maybe purchase it and then get offended, get upset, anything like that? Have you had to deal with that?
I have not. I've never had anyone specifically come back at me with. If anyone has ever come up to me with criticism, it was constructive. Maybe you should have this tone. I would have liked to see more of that. I've never had somebody come back to me actively upset about the content. Now, that is not to say that there are people who don't. That's not to say that there aren't people who feel that way. But I think that for a lot of people, if you don't like, I mean, the way I think most people should conduct themselves is if you don't like something, you just don't come back for anymore. You know, you watch a show, you don't like it. I don't feel the need to write an angry letter to them about it. I just don't watch anymore. Same with comics. If I read a book and there's content, I'm like, I don't think this is cool. I'm not going on a tirade. I'm just not reading it. You know, if somebody asks me, personally, they're like, what do you think of this? I will give them my honest opinion. But generally speaking, like I said at the top, I have so much respect for how much work it is to make comics. I'm not going to trash any book in public. If there's something I actively don't like, I don't talk about it. But, if a personal friend or somebody I have a personal relationship with, or I'm talking privately, I may tell them I thought A, B, and C about it. But I'm much more about uplifting comics as a medium as a whole. And if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say nothing.
Right.
Well, this isn't necessarily unnice, but it was a question, but it's gone now.
That was a spam comment, and you just didn't catch it, but it's okay.
What? Oh, I thought it was a good
But the first
question.
first part of the question was, however,
they totally spammed me.
Okay, sure.
What artist inspired you, Jeremy?
What artist inspired me? Well, I would say my comics Mount Rushmore is kind of like I hate to be predictable, but it's John Byrne, Walt Simonson, Frank Miller, Howard Chaykin. That's my Mount Rushmore of comic creators. The very first comic book, the first comic superhero comic I started buying on my own regularly. Most people come into John Byrne by way of X-Men or maybe his Man of Steel run at DC. For me, it was West Coast Avengers. Or sometimes it's Fantastic Four for some people. For me, it was West Coast Avengers. That's the comic that got me buying superhero comics regularly. And then when I started when I stopped moving just by stuff at the newsstand, when I found that my town had a comic book shop and I started going there regularly, then they had raffles, and in a raffle at my local comic shop, I won a copy of Walt Simonson's Star Slammers, like the original epic graphic novel. And I gotta tell you, I loved Star Slammers more than Star Wars. Like, it just sucked me in. So right off the bat, as a kid, my initial experiences in comics were reading like amazing works. Very early on, I encountered some of the best creators there are. To this day, I can't remember what my first Frank Miller comic was, because I feel like the time in which I started reading Ronin, Dark Knight Returns, and like Electro Lives Again was all kind of in a similar time frame, like in a similar like 1 or 2, 3 year period where I started meeting all of those. So it's like, I can't tell you when Frank Miller entered my consciousness because he entered it all at once. He was like, I didn't know who Frank Miller was, and then I had to read everything he created. Howard Chaykin, I think the first thing I might have read of Howard Chaykin's was actually some of his writing, because he had written what was it? Iron Wolf that Mike Mignola had drawn. And I think I'd also read Farford and the Grey Mouser. That, you know, I think that might also have been a Mignola book that either came out from Epic or from Eclipse. It was one of those two. It was more of an indie comic. But then once I started, I was like, I like this Chaykin guy. And then I was like, oh, he's an artist too? And you know, it was hard. Even then, it was hard to pick up copies of American Flag. But you know, like, you know, everything I've read of his, just he's that sarcastic humor, and the fact that he can make you laugh and then do something that's super sexy and go, oh damn, that's hot, and then have incredible action. You know, it's like he knew how to push all the buttons of like a teenage comic fan. Like he was definitely.
You're going to be blown away if you go to a buffet with Matt. It's amazing. I said the exact same thing. It's incredible.
Well, yeah. So those, yeah. Again, so those are my I have many more inspirations, because I mean, for instance, Bill Sienkiewicz is probably my favorite comic book artist, and a big part of that is that growing up, some people are like Jim Lee guys. Some people are like, I like George Perez. Some people are you know, like the other artists I mentioned, are Chaykin guys or Miller guys, you know, but I kind of loved every type of art. I just loved comic art. I love stuff that was cartoony. Like I love Robert Crumb. You know, I just, it doesn't matter, you know, Will Eisner, Kirby, like all the different styles. I did cartoony, but like Alex Ross, photorealistic. I love all of art. And when I discovered Bill Sienkiewicz, it's like this door opened in my mind. I was like, oh my God, you don't have to choose. He somehow
awesome.
just be like, first off, so few artists have the skill to work in so many different mediums and styles. And the fact that he's able to do it in books where he can do them in multiple styles within the same book, multiple styles within the same page, you know, and it just like, my style doesn't look like I'm trying to do a Bill Sienkiewicz thing, but he rewrote the DNA inside my brain of what's possible in comics.
So, Kylie, is it Kylie? I
Keeley.
know I'm saying that right.
Keeley.
Thank you, Keeley. So I know this is going to sound stupid. Nothing sounds stupid, Keeley. But would you ever think about doing a werewolf comic? Because I'd love to see some art like that from you. And I'm not even going to lie. As soon as I saw this question, I thought of the issue #1 cover that's in our marketplace. Like, that's pretty awesome. That's a pretty awesome question.
Well, yes, Keeley. I actually have a werewolf story. I've got a whole folder. I've got a whole folder that I call my idea file, and I just throw ideas in there. I just write up my summary. I'm like, I'm going to get to them when I get to them. Some of them as I go along. If I think up new plot points or develop the characters more, I'll go back and I'll add a little bit more to it. And at a certain point, once that grows more than a couple pages, I will take that section out of my idea file and make it its own folder. So I've got it's not the next project I'm going to do, but I'm glad that you like the idea of me doing that. I might start with just doing like some werewolf pinup art just to see how people react to it. Yeah. And depending on how they respond, that might lead into me doing.
I'll be your model.
One of the things I really want to do is start doing shorter stories, because as much as I loved working on Morningstar, you know, it took me a decade to do that. And to complete the story. And I realized, like most of us who are creative, you never stop having ideas. The flood just keeps coming. And I already have more ideas than I'm ever going to get a chance to finish that before I die, period. I've got too many. And I thought maybe I need to switch to doing more like one-shots, 48-page, like super short graphic novellas, and just getting more and more ideas out into the world. And then if one particular one picks up like hotcakes, that's the thing that I might do like a 6-issue miniseries of and do more of, and maybe do like trilogies and that kind of thing. So the fact is, like, even with the story I have planned now, I'm trying to sit down and figure out how to structure it so that I can do like a 2-issue arc that can collect as a novella. And it tells enough of the story that people feel satisfied, but leaves it open, because what I plan as the entire arc of the story, I can't fit all of that into a 48-page novella. So the idea is, how do I structure this so that it can be almost like, I don't know if you were, well, yeah, we're all of that age. You remember how there'd be a lot of movies of the week back in the 80s?
Right.
And you watch that movie of the week, and then the next year it's a TV series. The movie of the week was just the pilot for that series. Like Knight Rider. Knight Rider started out as a TV movie. People forget that. The A-Team started out as a TV movie. Before they even did a pilot, they would just do a TV movie, see how people react to it. If the response is great, they're like, all right, let's do a series.
Huh.
I really want, and the problem is the ideas keep growing in my brain. Like, it's even a simple idea ends up growing into something where it's like Watchmen now. Not in terms of quality, just in terms of complexity and length. And I really want to get myself back to this movie of the week format, where I just make a story, put it out there, beginning, middle, end. Hopefully people gravitate to it, love it. And if they just do it like, all right, that was nice. What else do you got? And I just move on to the next story. Because, life is short. We all keep forgetting TikTok. The clock is ticking. By the way, JD said, no one ever says I'm a Rob Liefeld guy, oddly enough.
Yeah, right?
I love me some Rob Liefeld. People talk a lot of shit. But
Thank
you know
you.
what?
Thank you.
But I was buying those Young Bloods. I was buying those X-Force issues. I was buying those New Mutants. So it's like, if you never liked him from the jump, then fine. That's your opinion. You didn't like his artwork. But I'm not going to turn around and talk shit about a guy whose stuff I was gobbling up as a kid, loved, and I still love the stuff he puts out now. I know he's not a good person, that's cool. But I'm not going to turn around and just crap on him like a lot of people do.
Well, I loved his Captain America run. I loved it. Yeah. The story was actually compelling. It was, I mean, now, granted, when he does...
Well, now, was he the writer? I thought he was the artist.
I think
he was just the artist.
Writer and artist.
He was the writer, too?
Okay. He was both. Yeah. Oh, wow. That is cool.
But, I mean, like, with his stuff, where it's so, kind of in your face and everything, and he's working on these big books that are so well known. Yeah, when you do have a screw up, and everybody's going to screw up every once in a while, it gets blasted all over the internet. So,
yeah, I mean, I see people sometimes like blasting artists that are like at the big two, who like are great artists, like top tier artists. People are still like talking crap about them. And I'm just like, I don't get. I mean, here's the thing. I have never made a monthly comic in my life. And just from making the comics that I have, where I'm doing like the most I've ever done is like 3 issues a year. But like when I look at people, like I have friends who've done monthly comics, and I look at how hard that is. When I talk to professionals at conventions who work at the big two, I'm like, do people know how hard this is? When I see people who just see a book and they just slam it like, oh, that book sucked. The artist who made that sucked. Or the writing sucked. I'm like, do you have any idea how hard this is? Jenkins in the book sucks. He knows how hard it is. He has a right to say that things suck. But But everybody else, I'm like, shut up. It's hard.
Yeah, I will shut up because I don't have that right. I see what y'all go through, and I cry for you because I see what y'all go through, but I've never experienced it, and it is insane the amount of energy that goes into a comic book. Because people think funny book, they think cartoony book, they think simple, easy, sweet, nothing to it, and it's so not true. There's
I
so
always
much more in
hated
a
that
comic
term.
book.
That's just more of a
What,
genre, not the funny books and stuff like that. That is a genre. That's not the whole, everything overall. So I hate it when that does get used in that term.
I saw another comment there. Real Talk asked if I would be interested in collaborating with Tara Buchura. And it's not that I have no interest in collaborating. It's that my dance card is incredibly full right now. I have not just the next graphic novel that I have planned in front of me, but I have about 5 different graphic novels I plan to both write and draw all, in a row. And it's really, really hard for me to set aside the time that it would take to properly work on a comic. So, there's stuff like I've done covers for friends of mine's projects and done pinups for them. That's the kind of stuff that, I'm available for doing stuff like that. People can reach out to me, email me, that kind of thing. And if I can fit into my schedule, I will. But I rarely collaborate, not because comics is a collaborative medium. But I myself, if anything, I feel like I am more of a cartoonist. Like when you look at somebody like, say, Will Eisner, Howard Chaykin has both drawn books for other writers and he has written books for other artists and he writes and draws his own stuff. I am probably more of the Will Eisner camp where when I tend to make art, when I tend to make comics, it's like a holistic project for me. I tend to write and draw the story completely, and I tend to write and draw my own stuff as opposed to writing and drawing stuff for other people. So pinups, possibly, maybe like short, like 4-6 page backup type things, rarely. But more than that, it's that I feel like it would be unfair of me to enter a collaboration with someone if I'm not going to give it my all and my heart isn't in it. And I'm so fired up about the stuff that I'm writing and drawing that I just have a hard time carving out the time to do stuff with other people. So
have you ever
even asking, because I know that it's hard to try and even find good collaborators, but I want to at least answer that because I do get asked from time to time and I don't want people to feel like I'm blowing people off.
Well, do you ever consider collaboration with your works? What you do is fantastic. You really have created incredible things. Like you said, you've got all these ideas and just not enough time in the day, to freaking get to all of them. Do you ever put it out there that you are looking for people to collaborate on your ideas with you?
No.
Okay. All right. Good answer. That was excellent.
Because I think I would need to be in a mental space. I would need to be in a space in my career. And I would be in a space emotionally where I'm not going to be a control freak. Because I don't think anybody in the creative process wants someone to tell them how to do their job. They want someone to trust them, to make it clear what they expect from them. Give them clear guidelines, but then trust them to do their job and to do it right. No artist wants the writer telling them how to draw the page. No writer wants the artist dictating plot lines to them unless they're agreeing on a collaborative thing. I don't think any letterer wants to. Maybe it might make some letterers' lives easier if the writer is spotting balloon placement for them. But I think a lot of letterers kind of just, they know how to do it and they know what's going to read best on the page. They understand the flow of text throughout the page. And honestly, doing my own lettering has made me a better artist. I don't think I'm a great letterer, but I think that it has taught me a lot about page design. It's taught me a lot about visual storytelling. But my point about it is that I am a control freak. That's plain and simple. I'd
You're
like
like
to
the lone wolf. You're the alpha male. It's okay. It's not control freak. You're just the best of the best. We get it.
Well, no. I mean, I want to call it what it is, because I think that people shy away from the term control freak because it's a negative connotation. But the fact of the matter is I could get a lot more done if I did just story outlines and maybe rough layouts, kind of like I think that the perfect example is somebody like
I already showed that, Fry.
I don't know why I'm blanking on the name. The minute I reach for a name, Keith Giffen. Keith Giffen. From Justice League International to like the 52 miniseries. The fact that he did the layouts for the entire 52 issues for a wide variety of artists. He did layouts for all of them. And they're all and that's it. He just did layouts. He worked out the storytelling so the storytelling would be consistent, and then gave those pages off. If I were Keith Giffen, I could crank out so much stuff by just having other people and trusting them to just, if you need to change a panel, change a panel. If you need to change the way the page is laid out, just lay it out. Change it. But here's the general. Here's the gist. Go have fun. I am so up my own ass about the creative process. I'm not in an emotionally healthy enough place that I can do that. And that's the reason why I don't want to start bringing other people in, because I think that if I'm going to collaborate with people, I want to be the best collaborator. I want to be a collaborator that people are going to say, oh my God, I love working with him. I would work with him any day or night. I would kill myself to work on one of his stories. And right now, I'm not that person. I'm self-aware enough to know that I'm not that creator. I'm too much of a micromanager. I've got my paws and everything. And until I can be at a place where I can find a way to respectfully make room, same way I like to make room for the viewers in my art pieces, to make room for the collaborators in the collaborative process, I shouldn't be collaborating with people.
That's actually great awareness. Rose has a question. Hey Jeremy, what is your comics a graphic novel? I would be sold in the would it be sold in the UK? I would like to get my hands on all of them. I love your art.
It is there are graphic novels, and you can order them in print. I don't know how expensive the shipping is in the UK, but you can find them on Amazon UK. But if you read digitally, you can pick them up on Crypto Comics and read that way.
There we go.
I think she wants the physical. She wants to be able to touch it, caress it, because your art is fantastic. I agree with her completely. Your art is fantastic.
That's kind of you to say, Rose. If you go to my main website, jeremy.net, there's a link to my Amazon page, because I don't usually ship the books internationally that I sell directly on my store. But if you click the link to go to the Amazon page, you can get them from there. And if you've got Amazon Prime, you don't have to worry about the free shipping. You just order it and they send them out.
There you go, Rose. It's Amazon Prime time. right here at Crypto Comics. Woo!
All right. So Keely has a question too. So my other question would be, would you be open to doing a drawing? I can't hardly see that. And you're looking at it and giving criticism. So I was actually looking at your Patreon. That looks like that's a tier, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a tier. That's usually something that, and it's not that I want to gouge people. It's more of the fact that it would be really time. Yeah, it would be really easy for me to spend all day just, doing draw-overs and doing critiques of people's work. So on my Patreon, one of the things you get access to is a Discord server that's just Patreon exclusive. Once you're on the Discord server, we have a work in progress thread where people just post stuff they're working on. We have a finished works thread. We have a request critique thread. And so it's not just me, it's other people that are on there. and we're all like super supportive. So it's not like no one's coming in there and shredding someone's work. We just have it where, you know, we just give each other feedback. It's like, I see this about this thing, I see that about that thing. And there's a guy on there who pointed out like a painting I've been working on recently, that I finished this big dragon painting, and the jaw is actually not in proportion. And they mentioned it, and they were, you know, I was like, that's a good point. You caught that. And this is somebody who he's still developing his work. And I told him, you know, your eye and your ability to spot problems in artwork develops faster than your ability to correct them. That's something that this radio host Ira Glass talked about in an interview. That your taste develops faster than your ability, and that's one of the things that frustrates most creatives, because that's why you end up feeling like everything you make sucks, is because you can see all the flaws earlier in your career than you have the ability to correct them. But my greater point is just that, yes, I have a Patreon. On the Patreon, it's like $2. The lowest tier is like $2 a month. And even though the art request and doing the drawovers is one of the higher tiers, you know, if people post who aren't on that tier post to work in the Patreon for feedback, and I do drawovers. Sometimes we do it during the private live stream. I'll do them in public live stream if they actually want it to be part of my main, because I do a weekly live stream on my YouTube channel as well. So if they specifically want it during the public live stream, I'll do it there. Otherwise, I just do it during the private live stream, where I'll just do it and repost it there with some notes and feedback. So yeah, Patreon. That's the best way if you want me to go ahead and do corrections and give feedback on a drawing. That's the main thing I do.
I just want to hit on something real quick. Crutchy came in and said for Rose, Jeremy's books are available on Amazon UK, both physical and Kindle, and at least Morningstar is. So I'm not sure. Do you have the graphic novels on Amazon UK, Jeremy? Like,
well, the nice thing with Amazon is that I use their print on demand service, and when you use that, you can just have it so that they can, you know, whatever facility they have that they print the books on, so they print them to order. And mind you, the quality I've seen, the quality, I put it toe to toe with like an offset print run I've got of other books, and it is actually, it started off just as good. So I wasn't going to go to print on demand if the quality wasn't there. At this point, it surpassed the quality of like the early offset print books that I've gotten. Like the technology is better and better over the years. Now, mind you, my book is black and white. That is not the same for color books. I think that their quality for color books is actually very good, because I've specifically bought books from artists that I knew were color books, but because I followed them on social media, I knew that they were doing it through Amazon's on-demand service. But I bought the book specifically because I wanted to see how the printing came, and I'm like, wow, this is like. And I saw an artist who did an instructional watercolor painting book, and you cannot tell that it's print on demand. It looks fantastic. So yeah, the point being is that those books they should be available internationally.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So Rose, yes, you can get a graphic novel from the great Jeremy, and you just go to Amazon UK, and that's where you can make that order. And it sounds like it would be a print on demand, and if you got Prime, sounds like it's free shipping. So definitely check that out. Now I got another question I got to ask you. In your opinion, what makes a Grail comic? I've got actually two other people that probably have opinions on this too.
Well, I mean, when I think of a Grail comic, the way I interpret that is just, you know, it's a must-have, gotta get, you want to get. Like when I think of Grail comics, I usually think of it in terms of more of the collectability, instead of stories. So I think people, they're trying to get like a pristine #1, get it slabbed. That's what I think of when I think of Grail comics. Now, a Grail comic can also just be, it is a book that made an indelible mark on you, and you're like, I value and treasure this book, and I gotta get it. Most of the people I know that talk about Grail comics, they're talking about stuff that they read either in the 80s or the 90s. It's something that they read maybe as a teenager, and they're like, if they lost that book, then they're like, or maybe their parents threw out their comic convention collection when they went away to school or moved out, and they've never been able to get that book again. So I think that I don't think you can manufacture a Grail comic. I don't think that a Grail comic can be. Go ahead.
Quick question. So like a Grail comic could be the cover that Fry got from you. That was a
Could be.
limited edition.
Could be.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily like something that has to be of real big value. It's more like it's the value associated to person receiving it. And am I understanding you correctly?
Well, that's my interpretation of it. So I would definitely want him, if he wants to clarify what he thinks of as a Grail comic, if it's something different, then I definitely am open to answering that question as well. But the way
real talk, you hear it.
Yeah.
Clarification, please.
Yeah, but the way that I interpret a Grail comic is just it's a book that I feel like it's more about the personal attachment that you have to a book.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a book that you very much feel passionately about. And so really it's not necessarily about what that book is. I mean, for some people, a Grail book might be John Byrne's She-Hulk #1. Is that the best book that John Byrne has ever done? No. It's a great book, but not his best book. But it might be the book that you love more than any of his other works. So I feel like it's more about the personal connection that the person has with that work than it is about than the book itself. So in terms of creating a Grail book, all I can say is it's about making the best story, making the best art and best story that you possibly can. I know Real Talk also mentioned the possibility of doing an NFT at some point. And the answer is yes. I just don't have any drops planned right now. I'm still very much like NFTs are a hot button issue. I don't think it's a hot button issue. I think that it's obviously you guys do crypto comics. You're doing stuff that's in the blockchain. So I believe that for digital goods, the blockchain is the future. Whether it's art, comics, people doing short films, performance pieces. For me, it's more about having the bandwidth to properly put together a drop. It's about deciding whether I want to do drops based on existing work that I have or creating whole new pieces just for it. I'm probably not going to get into the whole doing animated NFTs only because I'd rather spend my time writing and drawing than animating. I mean, it's again that could be a place where I could collaborate with people, is in putting together NFT projects. That's a place where I could see myself saying, all right, if I was just focused on writing, making a certain piece of artwork, and then someone else animating it and putting that together, that's something I could see myself doing. So the short answer is yes, but the slightly longer answer is I don't have a planned drop in the near future. I'm still finding my way out in the space. All of the people I've talked to in the NFT space so far have been incredibly welcoming, encouraging, and they encourage people to just, the phrase that someone told me was do your own research. And they said, just people are willing to share, but you got to go in, look up, learn the nomenclature, learn what's going on. And I'm at the very beginning of that learning curve. So I'm not diving head first in, but I'm starting to learn.
Well, because this person has such a good track record for good questions, I would like to, is there a secret sauce to develop a cult following like Todd McFarlane, do you think?
Well, hell, you'd have to have Todd. I ain't got that. I mean, I will tell you that I think most people will say that longevity and stubbornness is necessary in most creative fields. And, I mean, the YouTube channel that I have doesn't have a huge audience. I've got like probably about 7,000 plus on there. And that is by far my largest following. On most social media platforms, I've got a few hundred, like definitely less than 1,000 on most social media platforms. And I don't have the following that I do have, which again, that's not huge on YouTube. But I don't have that audience because I've developed a cult following. I have it because I've been on YouTube specifically for over a decade, and I've shown up week in, week out. So that's how you develop a following. You get consistency, exactly. Just you pick a day of the week, you show up on a platform, and you keep showing up. I mean, for instance, I've talked to people about switching over to Twitch. I've talked to people about, switching over to Facebook. And there are platforms where you can stream on all platforms at once, as you guys know. And I haven't dug into streaming on multiple platforms at once because I don't know how it would field all of those questions. Because even now, just on YouTube, we end up with so many conversations at a certain point. My brain starts melting because I can't stay up with everybody. I don't know how I would handle it with multi-platform conversations. I mean, at least not without a moderator. That's a collaboration I could get behind. It's having a mod on my channel.
That's why you came on our show. We're the moderator. We are collaborating right now. You need hyperactive people to help you navigate all the social media chatting going on around us. It's stressful.
Yeah. But yeah, in terms of developing an audience, it's persistence and consistency. That's what it is. There's no if you have something that blows up early on or goes viral, that's luck. It's I mean, you can manufacture it in the sense of intentionally doing something that's provocative, but that gets old, and I think it leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths.
It could also be looked at like a blessing.
You say that now, Jeremy, but you haven't seen Jared rolling through a convention on Heelys, buddy. I'm just saying. There's a time and place.
Like I said, it's a matter of personal strategies and what you want to do. By the way, Rose, I did see your comment about not being a fan of Amazon. I got 0 responses from people on my my YouTube channel. I actually asked them how they felt, because I've looked into. There's another company that does print on demand internationally called Lightning Source, and they have it where you can order books from Barnes and Noble. They have for digital platforms. They have it on Kobo and Nook, and I think you can make them available on IndieBound and other places, so that people that can order through small local bookstores. And I asked them all, is it important to you if I get my book on these other platforms you can buy from places other than Amazon? And because I intended to do it, but I said, if nobody says anything and nobody cares, then I'll get to it when I get to it. But if somebody thinks it's important, it's a priority, I will make it a priority. You know what? Just the fact that you said that you really want that, I'm gonna try and get that. I don't think let me this way. I'm not gonna get it done this month. I'm not gonna get it done within the next 30 minutes. So if you're thinking that far out, then Amazon you might be stuck with. But I'm gonna try within the next couple of months to get it available to order in print from other online retailers.
Part of her comment was, what do I put to see your graphic novel on Amazon? Do you know the navigation she would use?
I don't know the navigation per se, but I think if you just look up Morningstar, I think if you just search for Morningstar and Gerimi, it'll show up. Because believe it or not, I get these royalty statements from, it might be from Comixology, but I think that on Comixology there's a large British following, so I always see sales from the UK over there. But if you're gonna read digital, you should get them from Crypto Comics.
Yeah,
thank you.
I like that.
That's right. But if you want physical and you're in the UK and you got Prime, just saying, he gave you a killer option for the physical.
Yeah, exactly. If you just search for my name on Amazon UK, if you search for my name and Morningstar or just my name, you should be able to find it.
That is awesome. Holy mackerel. Well, we're coming up on 2 hours, everybody. Wow. Time flies when you're talking to Jeremy. You know what that means, right?
Now I'm a jabberjaw. I keep going, and
I was thinking we were having fun. Time flies when you're having fun. That's what I was getting at. But at least I'm not the only one that's the jabberjaw. You know what I'm saying? It's nice to have someone else in here taking the heat off of me. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's always fun to talk with you guys. It's always good to catch up. It's always good. Hopefully I shared some stuff that's useful to everyone else. I see Keely.
Hold on.
I think one more question.
Yep, I just found it. Would anyone ever do a Braille comic for blind people? My sister, who is going blind, has been getting into comic books, and I would love to see one. That is interesting.
I actually
How
did a quick
would you?
Google search and found a few. So,
Well,
Really?
I mean,
You would have to describe the art in the Braille, right?
that's from what the pictures look like. That's what was going on. Yeah. But it was this one I looked up was called Life, out of this company based out of Copenhagen. It was 6 panels each page. They were all laid out in, the square. And yeah, everything was just a description. And then underneath they would have the lettering. What would, somebody actually be saying? And then just move on to the next. So it kind of, when people were translating like a Batman comic or something like that, it was kind of messing with the format, just because, Batman comics could be 4 panels to a page or 7 panels or, more, but they kept it 6 per page. So, yeah.
Well, there you go. I've never seen one. Oh, I see what she's saying in terms of like actually having the artwork raised or embossed so you can run your hands over the art.
Oh, that would be expensive
idea.
in the printing process.
That's an intense idea.
Mm-hmm.
That is not a book you want to have pressed, ladies and gentlemen.
Digi has a solution, though, of course. Keely, you might research on Fiverr and see if someone would do an audiobook-esque recording version of some. That's what I said.
Yes.
And
I know. I know.
Which can be done. Oh,
I love audiobooks specifically because they allow me to enjoy entertainment while I'm drawing. Because I find television, lots of people will have the TV on in the background, but television is distracting because it's it's a visual medium. I want to look up and see what's going on, particularly because I like to watch stuff that's visually engaging. Whereas in the audiobook, it's just kind of happening in the back of my mind. I'm just listening to it while I'm drawing and sketching, and I can kind of just let my my art brain do what it has to do while I'm enjoying the story.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
I mean, I get the audiobook thing. In terms of specifically doing comic books with raised artwork, embossed artwork, I haven't seen it out there other than embossed covers, like embossed foil covers. Yeah, incentive. I think that it's doable. I don't know how cost effective it is, and honestly, unfortunately, the market is dictated by is it selling and is it making enough money to be worth the price of the investment. So yes, I think that it is possible. Whether someone's going to do it would really depend on if they made one and enough visually impaired people engaged with it that they're like, oh, we're selling a lot of these. So who knows?
Yeah, so just to really get down on it, Jeremy is really reiterating that you've got to really listen to your audience. Like, you really have to know your market. You have to know what your audience is looking for, what your market wants to see, and cater that, because that's what's going to drive your brand. That's what's going to drive your success. And that's why Jeremy is so dang successful. Dude, Morningstar is fantastic. You are incredible. Thank you. It has been our pleasure to have you join us. I mean, and by the way, I just wanted to mention that I too agree with Nobody's Illusion. Your background is awesome. I freaking love it.
Thank you. You know what's funny is my studio is kind of a mess. And I tried using the virtual backgrounds for Zoom or for live streaming. And for some reason, with my laptop, the virtual background feature will not work. Like in StreamYard, doesn't work. And in Zoom, it doesn't work. I don't know why. And so I just decided, I just bought a folding Japanese screen. And so behind this is the mess that every artist person's studio has. But in front of it is this beautiful, glorious.
We can't see that. We can't see that, Jeremy. All we can see is awesomeness. You look. I thought you were in Japan at first. I was like, "Oh, dang, man, he's coming to us from afar, from across the seas." But instead, it was just.
It can be international. It can be everywhere.
Right?
I'm in the ether, man. I'm in the ether.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And we love you, everybody. Thank you so much for attending Crypto. Whoa. Sorry. Somebody's about to shut me down.
Yeah, I am. Before we go, guys, we got one more thing for you. Okay? All right.
All right. We're ready.
Everybody goes to the dashboard. You come down here.
Whoa. Okay.
Scroll over just a little bit, and you'll see my badges. Okay? We already gave away 2 for tonight.
Badges.
We got one more for you. Now.
No way.
It does have to do with Lucifer or Morningstar.
Did you get your badges, Jeremy? Are you getting your badges? You gotta be getting your badges, buddy.
Badges,
okay. Beelzebub. The other name.
I want to see
Lucifer.
this one.
And there you go.
Oh, dude, yes. Jeremy 2021. Oh, I like that picture. Dude, thank you, Jeremy. Thank you so much.
Guys, thanks a lot. Thank you for having me. It's always a blast. I greatly appreciate it. I look forward to the next time.
Right on. Right on. And everybody, thank you for showing the love to another great and fantastic indie creator who can do it all. Because he does.
On a regular basis.
On a regular basis, on a frequency basis that's building a cult following.
So yeah, definitely get out there, go to his books on Crypto Comics, leave some reviews, check them out. You will love them. Order some prints for him. I ordered one. I got it up on my wall. It's the Night Nurse. I love that Night Nurse picture. And check him out on Patreon. Man, go support this man. He needs it. He deserves it.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. Be productive.
Take care.